Yeah, so that last game, pretty insane. And the reason why playing Planeswalkers is so devastating, it's just so much card advantage and killing. But anyway, this is the other end of the spectrum. This type of white deck is not nearly as aggro. It has a little bit of late game power. And yeah, it's just not going to be the thing that goes one drop, two drop, three drop, win the game, like the last one was attempting to do, despite the fact that it wasn't really doing it for me today. That's not to say it wasn't working. I mean, we won half the games in the last video. And yeah, I mean, that deck is still good. I've won as many as like 9 games in a row with that mono white, but today was not the day. His hand is a little unfortunate because we don't actually have anything to play on 3 legitimately. Like, we can play this Militia Captain, which is not exciting. Oh, there's a 1-drop, so we can play that, I guess, next time. But being able to play Thought Not Seer against, like, an Abzan, and this is... I mean, I don't know if this is a guy we've played today. I wasn't paying attention, but this is the 3rd time I've seen black, white, and green. But Thought Not Seer being able to find their board wipe or whatever insanity planeswalkers they're running, take it out of their hand is going to be useful. When you have a hand like our hand, you can almost project that, okay, we look at Thought Not Seer, we see their hand, they got planeswalkers and big guys. Well, we know that because we have Reprisal, we don't need to take a big guy. We can take their planeswalker and kill their big guy. Oh, that was a great draw. We can't attack with Militia Captain, but we get to play 2 guys, which is pretty much what we wanted to do. Now we lose to Languish, which is just by virtue of the fact they got to go first. But if they Languish, we actually have a Planeswalker and a Thought Not Seer to follow that up, so it's not actually the end of the world. I think that I would play the Gideon first. Oh, yep, there's a big guy. I really want to look at their hand. Avacyn, it's pretty good. I think it's worth taking 5 to look at their hand. So just a bunch of giant things, in essence. All of these are threatening things. I don't even know how we beat all these things. Grasp of Darkness kills the Thought Not Seer. I think I don't want to deal with this trample, actually. Well, if he grasps the Thought Not Seer, I'm okay with that. I'm kind of thinking about quad blocking here because of how badly we can't deal with everything. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna let him grasp this thing, and then we'll block later when he doesn't have grasp. Okay, so he kills Consul's Lieutenant. Which would have been nice to blow up with Avacyn. He can still kill Avacyn with that grasp, which is annoying. I think we gotta tread lightly here. So we're gonna triple block and force his hand on the grasp on this Thought Not Seer, and then we're gonna kill this thing. That way our Avacyn is safe next time. Oh wow, he's not going for it. Alright. That is very unfortunate. Sylvan Advocate. So if we play Gideon, it just dies. But it would force him to grasp once again. I really want him to use that Grasp of Darkness badly. I can't make him do it. I just can't. We don't have any good plays. Let's see, if I plus Gideon, he can kill it without grasping. This is Topan Freeblade. It's amazing not being able to play this Avacyn because we saw his hand had Grasp of Darkness, but we may end up getting our guy Grasp of Darkness anyway. Which gets around the Avacyn Indestructible clause, by the way. It's actually quite brutal. And Obnixilis. So now we have to play Avacyn exclusively to kill this guy. And I'm not even sure we can. So I think we play Gideon plus Gideon. Or, I mean, minus, rather. So +1/+1 our team. Assault this Obnixilis. He probably double just blocks to protect all its loyalty. If we can get him to just Grasp of Darkness finally, we can start working our Avacyn into this plan. But there's just no way we can win. I think we double block this guy here. Although it looks like he's going to kill one of our guys, so we can't. And then he's got another Guilt Leaf. This guy's draw. Oh, God, it's so frustrating. He never had to use that Grasp of Darkness. And he's going to win the game. And we can't. This Avacyn is not going to survive. We have lost the game. That was amazing. This guy's deck and his draw was amazing. I'm disgusted. Sometimes I like to win, you know? Alright, well, we get to kill this Obnixilis. And then die, right? That's what happens. Yep, we're dead. Because he just grasps and gets in with Menace. That was pretty unfair. Our draw was reasonable too. But we could not force him to use that Grasp of Darkness, unfortunately. Which must mean he's a good player. When I triple blocked, I assumed he'd fire that off for the blowout, but I guess he was content with the 2-for-1. That's the mind of a man who was thinking about what we were thinking. And what he was thinking was, this guy must have a kill spell if he's going to block like this. And we did. It's our turn. Looks like we're not going to get to play the things we want to play in the order we want to play them. This Evolving Wilds is a little awkward with Knight of the White Orchid. That's frustrating. I guess that slows us down enough to where we can just be slow, though. I don't really want to spatial contortion that thing just to get in. I'm going to get the double white because we can get a blue with white of the Knight of the White Orchid afterwards. It slows us way down. Like, this deck is not anywhere near as consistently strong as the last deck in the early game, but it just has way better late game. I don't care if he gets in with this Consul's Lieutenant because we can just Spatial Contortion it later. We need to get blue, so we can't play this land. This is a pretty underwhelming Thalia's Lieutenant buff, but it's going to get the job done in this case. I think next turn we're going to Knight of the White Orchid, find a blue land, and then Spatial Contortion this Consul's Lieutenant, and hope he doesn't have a second Consul's Lieutenant. This is an interesting matchup because we're basically roughly going against the previous video's deck, more or less. If he puts an enchantment on his Consul's Lieutenant, we can Reflector Mage in a couple turns. We'll be at like 12 life by then, but that's okay. I actually think it's not worth trading, sad to say. We can make this Thalia's Lieutenant reasonably big pretty fast. Vryn Wingmare. That actually fucks us pretty bad on this Spatial Contortion. I think in this case, it's actually worth attempting to trade one of these rares for his Vryn Wingmare, just because we want a Spatial Contortion that badly. The Kythian is surprisingly not that big of a deal, so I don't care. I'm going to see if he enchants this first before killing it, because he's not running counter spells or anything, so... Always watching would have been insane there, but... So he's playing almost exactly the same deck as me. It's kind of interesting. You gotta do it before he officially attacks or his guys get buffed. Man, Handwear Militia Captain. This guy's draw has been quite good. I think we'll Reflector Mage first, and then we can Eldrazi Displacer our Reflector Mage the next turn and just go off. But we'll start by preventing him from Handwear Militia Captaining us. I guess I would trade if he wants. Even though bouncing this Thalia's Lieutenant with Eldrazi Displacer over and over buffs our humans indefinitely, I think it's worth thinning out his herd, knowing that he has Handwear Militia Captain to make guys. That'll make him think twice about trading his guys here. Even if he thinks Thalia's Lieutenant's a threat, he still has to lose 2 guys to do it, and that might actually not be worth it for him. I mean, apparently it is, but that's okay, because now his Thalia's Lieutenant's way less threatening, or his Handwear Militia Captain's way less threatening, and we still have Reflector Mage to go off with Eldrazi Displacer, so that's perfectly fine. As long as you have some kind of crazy target for Eldrazi Displacer, that's a good draw for him, because we can't actually bounce that without hating our life a little bit. But I'm pretty sure that we're like 90% favorites to win this game against everything except for maybe Avacyn. I'm going to play the Displacer first just because I don't want to get blown out by a removal spell and not have a answer. I would have rather just got 4 free damage in, but... So he leaves the game. We won't continue. He knows that's pretty much the hard lock. We'll just try and get more games in. Once you have 6 mana and a Reflector Mage, there's very few things that will be able to effectively answer Eldrazi Displacer. That is why it was on my top 5 new rares video at number 4, because it comes down and people just have to consider, is this the end? And in that case, it pretty much was. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about long game versus aggro. Like, I know people like just aggroing out, winning a game fast, losing a game fast, but, you know, you mess up your mana a little bit so that you have a powerful late game play, and that is almost as powerful as it gets. Is this the same guy? Yep. Our draw isn't as gross, but... And he got to go first, too, which is heinous. We definitely would have rather had Topan Freeblade out. Or wait, we went first. Well, I just meant... Ugh, I'm an idiot. He got to play a guy, which is just unfortunate. Like, usually, you know, most people play a guy on turn 2, and we play a guy on turn 2. And then we just get in after we Reflector Mage. Like, he'll probably play Consul's Lieutenant here or whatever, and we'll bounce it, which is great. That is a Consul's Lieutenant. And we'll bounce it and then get in anyway. But usually, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Usually, people don't have turn 1 plays, so you're deciding who gets to play their 2-drop first. And in the world of playing Topan Freeblades, you always want to be the first one to drop a Topan Freeblade for basically the exact reason that we just saw. The only difference is he attacked with this, so he didn't have a backup plan, really. Double Anointer of Champions is pretty aggressive, and he's not going to be able to be very aggressive, so this is pretty bad news for him. He would trade with this Topan Freeblade, and I'm not willing to. So I'm going to just attack with Reflector Mage. See if I can get 2 of his guys. This is a clear sign that I don't care if he blocks, but we're going to get a Wastes here because we need it. That's another reason why I dropped a lot of the 1-drops in this deck versus the last deck, is because when you play Evolving Wilds to find your 1 copy of Wastes or whatever, or a blue mana, you get into a situation where you just don't get to play your 1-drops on turn 1 when you're playing Evolving Wilds instead. And I know we didn't play it on turn 1 there, but that's gross. We need to kill multiples of his things, and we can't. Yep, well, we're going to see if we can get a blowout here. We're going to have to kill this militia captain. It is certainly the threat du jour. We can no longer block this Consul's Lieutenant, which is unfortunate, without losing Topan Freeblade for free. It's certainly worth making him tap both of his Anointer of Champions to save his guy. As sad as that is, like, we're just conceding the fact that, I mean, it seems bad, but I mean his board position is a little better than ours considering we have two planes in hand. If he has no follow-up, oh god, that is the best follow-up play. I think that's game, unless we have Declaration of Stone off the top, or yeah, we're gonna concede. Do we see one draw? No, we don't. He can pump all his guys with Consul's Lieutenant. This one's over. Alright. Alright, well, that's back-to-back against basically the mirror. It's just we're like a mutated mirror. Hopefully we get a different player. Not because that's like heinous or anything. We're 1-1, but just to see it against something else, like the other garbage we played with the other deck, like board wipes and 5 planeswalkers at once and all that stupid stuff. Sometimes this joining session thing just locks up forever. It seems like it holds more than before. Sometimes I've had to like Alt F4 just to queue for another game. It's waited so long. I don't really get it. This is not a good hand. We have great cards, but the mana is the worst. Like, we have every colorless source ever. This is actually decent, surprisingly. We get a white in case we top deck Consul's Lieutenant. This is basically like Topan Freeblade's gonna be a 3. Oh god, another. Just going against the mirror every time. Although it's not really a mirror, I guess, if we've changed our deck this much, but our draw is still pretty amazing. Reality Smasher and Spatial Contortion should be a thing this game. Ooh, black. So this has really become an exploring white video because now we're playing white, variations of white, we're going against variations of white. Although his might be like a delirium sort of thing for all I know. I'm afraid of what he's going to do. When I see black and white mana, all that I think about is Languish and Planar Outburst. I know it's wrong to fetch this blue land right now instead of the end of their turn, but I don't like having to pause at the last second just to do it all the time, especially this early in the game. Grasp of Darkness. It's pretty annoying. So this guy has kill spells. It is not the mirror I thought it was going to be with this Topplegeist. There's a pretty reasonable chance that there will be a Languish or Planar Outburst coming quite soon. I actually think that life's not going to be a factor, so I'm just going to Lantern Scout first and try and Reflector Mage something more threatening. Kalidas. That is more threatening. I will have to Reflector Mage that. This is one of the best rares in the set if you can't kill it, and incidentally, we can't kill it. We can kill it if he blocks here or something, but that's about it. I would rather Reflector Mage and then try and do something later. Because we get in for 6 right now, and then like Reality Smasher's lethal next turn. If he doesn't board wipe. Because he goes to 9. Topplegeist blocks a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. Yeah, so we could do about 10 damage next turn at this point, depending on what he plays. Declaration in Stone. Well, we can now do... Oh, is that still lethal? So he blocks 3, takes 7. So he's still dead. Yeah, that's game. I'll do one more here, and then go about assembling this video. I think that building decks is fun, but it's very frustrating when you have an idea that doesn't pan out. I've lost to some Delirium decks, and I tried to make one of my own. It hasn't really panned out. Sometimes it wins pretty easily. Sometimes I think it has too many uncommons and not enough rares to really be impactful in this particular meta, where people are just playing planeswalkers that a Cursed Witch can't even kill or whatever. It's really unfortunate that we can't play this Consul's Lieutenant. Oh, we can. God, sometimes I just don't look at what the fuck I'm doing. Yeah, this is actually a great hand. I retract my statement. We can play every single thing in my hand. Amazing draw. So we can go 1, 2 Consul's Lieutenant, 3 Reflector Mage. If we can get a land, we can 4 Thought-Knot Seer, and we have removal if we can't play Thought-Knot Seer. This is going to be blue-white tutelage, probably. Usually this is only played in tutelage or decks that run Thopter Spy Network, but generally tutelage. Now, ideally, against a tutelage deck, even if he plays tutelage on turn 3, which is a bummer, I don't care that much. Mainly what we're concerned about is board wipe. So I do want a Thought-Knot Seer so I can get the Planar Outburst out of his hand. Pilgrim's Eye. I want to draw a land this next turn just to make more clear my path to victory, what I'm going to do. Because I may just want to Spatial Contortion this stupid thing. Since I didn't draw a land, I'm going to do that. He's not going to have that many creatures anyway, I don't think. And this represents a swing of 9 next turn if he kills nothing. And these are actually things that don't matter that much if they die, considering what's in our hand. Like, before we made some weird plays when we had double planes in hand. Well, you do weird things when you're kind of up against it. Whereas here we have things, so we can play a little more loose with what we have. This is a situation where I'd be willing to trade some stuff. He may be a Thopter Spy Network deck after all. Oh, this is excellent. Okay, so we will attack, see if he's willing to trade anything. He may not be tutelaging. after all. Although I have seen people Thopter Spy Network and Warlord Rogue and Tutelage before. I don't think he'll block this Kithian because of the indestructible threat. Yeah, he keeps the artifacts because of this Thopter Spy Network that's pretty likely in his deck. We get this Planeswalker. He can attack it. I don't actually give a fuck. He's going to attack it anyway, so we'll +2. See what he's working with. That is a Thopter Spy Network. Thopter Spy Network has got to be one of the most annoying cards in this game when you can't deal with it. It's just so difficult to deal with. You can't interact with it. This thing, like, nobody kills Alchemist Vial, so it just sits there and 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 sits there. It's so frustrating. But we do have Eldrazi Displacer and Reflector Mage, and we're 2 mana away from just crushing his whole life. Alright, so he's dead if he makes this attack. He's actually just about dead anyway, because we're going to make him chump block his Jace in order to survive. He may just quit, though. I've seen people quit to worse, to less threatening things. That's a good draw. We needed some land. Alright, so we Reflector Mage this. And we activate this. So maybe he's not going to chump block Jace. I mean, I guess he does. He still has to. Okay. He still has to. Forgot about this pump for a second. I guess he could still have a Planar Outburst in his deck, which at this point would be bad. Now we're a land away from, like, the super Reflector Mage and Thought Not Seer plan. I have a suspicion he's just going to leave the game here, even though he has another Alchemist Vial. I just can't imagine a card he could have that matters right now. One thing I want to note about these decks is they're all works in progress. Nothing's final. I haven't figured out these decks. Even the Bant deck that I did a deck tech on is not the final word on Bant. Well, there's no reason to displace her yet, right? Because he can Alchemist Vial no matter what. And then we'd have to tap this Reflector Mage. I guess it is over, right? Because we can just bounce his token. He's probably doing the math and realizing it's over. Well, that's that. We'll explore white power a little bit more. But my next deck tech is probably going to be something else. Maybe Esper Control. Maybe Jund. We'll see. Until next time.